do have like a bit of tension in my temples.
Oh.
Yeah.
How long did you stay up till yesterday?
About 12:30. I had about 7 hours sleep. Could not sleep for the life of me. With all of that 16 juice that got dropped. Welcome to the tinfoil den.
Welcome.
It has been created. It has been crafted. This is what I was waiting for, man. Something juicy to send me off the deep end. And I wasn't really sure. Even after watching that super sick trailer. I make no exaggeration when I say, for me personally, this is the best trailer I've ever seen in my whole life.
Really?
I'm saying it straight.
Okay.
No.
It was very well.
No holding any punches on that statement. Yeah. So many more times of going after it. I can't even focus on. It's like jumps back and forth. 1 minute I can't even focus on the visuals because Soken is just slamming it.
Yeah, he's done an amazing job.
And it's just transcending my freaking body. So I have to mute it so I can actually sit and pull out the imagery. But everything from start to finish in that trailer was slapping. But yeah, even on face value, I still wasn't entirely sure how much Yoshi P had given away, if he'd left a breadcrumb trail, if he'd left boxes of Pepe. But we do, guys. We have boxes of Pepe. We have a lot to cover. And I want to kind of break these up into loads of little vids rather than like really big chunky ones.
I think it'd be easy to digest.
And be able to give everything its time and attention. And more than anything, be able to give you guys in the conversation that you guys can dive in, just like 15, the days of yore, man. 2,000 years ago, it feels.
You're getting a bit of nostalgia from doing all this?
Big time, man. Big time. I need to actually get some tinfoil. Yeah. Because I think that's why my brain is malfunctioning. Too much steam.
Yeah.
We were up for my ears.
Yeah. We set up quite a bit last night, didn't we?
We did. And for you, this was your first kind of experience of. I said to you, trust me, in like 24 hours, we're going to be in the deep end.
Yeah.
Did you feel that?
I think I've done pretty well with it. I think there's some theories that we've sort of.
We've been bouncing back. I'll be in my room. I'll be like, and he'd be like, then he'd come in, and he's getting used to it, little tinfoil crafter, but he'd come timidly and be like, I don't know if I'm overthinking this, bro, but and I'd be like, James, this is golden, my boy. But yeah, there is a breadcrumb trail, and I think for this first opening, because there's still a lot of speculation and things that we're going to miss and need you guys to extrapolate and add to anything you guys notice. So I think setting the stage. Setting the stage. Because it's even for me, just getting used to the terminologies.
Learning all the characters.
Names, the nations. By the end of it, we want to have like the... Because what's really cool about this is wars don't just happen for nothing. There's motives. There's players. There's backstabs. There's betrayals. But cast into what is, I immediately have no shadow of doubt, is such a rich and varied world. There's pullings from mythology. Abrahamic and Christian is the really big one. But just a lot of mysticism, a lot of high fantasy. And out of the gate, they've established in their own world that this is a world that's full of speculation, mythology, things that have passed down through word of mouth, and so there's a lot of superstition, and nothing is entirely established, and that's why red herrings and they're not going to give you everything away, are they? So it's like red herrings, misdirects. They're going to be coming all over the place. So let's start with what we do know. The world's called Valisthea. Wait, 1500 years prior to what's kind of the only date we have, which is 860.
Yes, 860.
Again, that makes me think, what is the 0 point? That's what my brain always goes to. Whenever a calendar starts, what was at 0? All we know is that 1500 years, 860 is the day that first train awakening is the attack of Sambrique, the holy, self-righteous, brutal nation who seems like the main superpower of the eastern side of the continent. So let's get some maps going. Break this up. And this entire east section of the map is kind of being referred to as Storm.
Yes.
storm. And we're going to try to give you guys the Japanese as well as the English, because the Japanese elaborates on a lot of things. So even something as simple as that, in the British it says the imperial banner shall fly over cities in storm. Not very clear. Well, kind of. But the Japanese says it is no exaggeration to say that we now hold dominion over all of storm. So this is happening at a later time point. This isn't the early section, because again we've got time jumps as well, which even juggling that's going to be funky.
Yeah.
Funky. Yeah, we've got teen Clive, early 20s Clive, and we've got 30 Clive, and this is later. So at some point, Sambrique, the Holy Nation, the one with the dragoons.
Yes, that's
I thought it might be dragoons and also Crusaders, but
I have seen Crusaders sort of mentioned, but
the Crusaders are the Iron Kingdom.
Oh yes,
so the Iron Kingdom down here. These are the cultists, and they don't look like Crusaders. That's what, when we was watching the battles, is very confusing. It's because they're like these marauder-looking mofos, like berserkers. Something that you wouldn't really kind of associate as Crusaders on a righteous religious mission, but that is what they are.
Yeah.
But yeah, so 860 is the day that Sambrique to Rosaria. It's the day that Joshua sees the Archduke's head, of whose name we still don't know.
We don't know his name at all. Yeah, it hasn't been mentioned anywhere. We did a bit of looking around, didn't we? But
yeah, don't know. Yeah, his name. His head rolls off. It awakens Joshua through a trauma event. Wow. I love that. Well, when Joshua does that scream, how much like they add the phoenixes scream over it. And there's so many just glorious little thematic sweet ties in there. And this is another element I can't wait to go down in other vids, is even how these elemental aspects are tied in. We've got summons in all these different forms. We've got quite clear examples of where summons have blue eyes and red eyes.
Yeah.
We know we've got a Dark Ifrit, and that gets awakened at the fall of Rosaria. We've even seen like a Dark Titan. We even saw Bahamut, Dio, who is Sambrique's. This is one of the new characters. He's the prince. Which even that threw me under the bus, because it's very strange how these summons manifest in the world. And we're sort of landing on the idea that Yoshi P is doing a fantastic job at recognizing the summons with the distinct personalities, characters, and agendas, and even kind of like morality that we've seen throughout the theories. Bahamut being that one who sees himself as that higher being, the king of the summons, really reflected in Sambrique's emperor, who we see a scene where Sambrique is getting destroyed.
Yet for every citizen who falls, another can be bred. For every home that burns, another can be built. The Empire will live on.
Which weirdly we see a fight between Clive and Benedicto Garuda in Sambrique.
Yes.
It's some very interesting imagery that points towards goddess figure.
Yeah,
there's an overarching goddess. We've seen her. Yeah, we've seen her in a few.
And then there's the throne room.
Yeah.
There is a sort of a drake, isn't there? And you've got a goddess figure with a sword.
Let's show that. I feel like we're going off the deep end immediately. We was going to set the stage, but let's just go. Of course, again, you don't know whether or not these nations are creating artwork that is just twisted towards their own biases, their own beliefs, their own indoctrination. How much these things are accurate, and whether these things are prophecy or they're cosmogony. We don't have a lot of clarification, but what's really clear with this picture is because Sambrique is a holy nation that worships the one true deity. Now, immediately I thought that was going to be Bahamut.
Yeah, you would assume, wouldn't you?
But in classic kind of religious artwork, the higher beings are always placed literally higher. And as we see in here, there's some big goddess mummy. Mummy cults are cool, yo. She's up there, and Bahamut, or what we think is Bahamut, resides beneath her. Which could imply how these icons first came into existence. There's some big goddess. Now, I've got some theories on who this goddess could be. We've got some goddessy mummy figures in the Final Fantasy series. We'll cover that on another vid. On Sambrique's banner, we also see a female figure.
You do, yes.
We see the female.
Yeah.
And it's kind of classic sort of Virgin Mary.
Holding
Holding
the hands out.
Holding the
like
hands
that.
out.
Yeah.
Which is why I think there's a real big Christianity pull going on here. But we also see what looks like 2 dragons on their banner.
Yes, there is. Almost like a cross between the serpentine body of Leviathan and Bahamut as well.
Oh, yeah.
We won't get too much.
Yeah, anyone who's following me on Twitter, you guys know that I was getting spun out about whether Phoenix was Bahamut, and does that mean that Bahamut is Leviathan and he's kind of like snaky?
Yeah.
But no, it is indeed Leviathan, which is a whole mystery of the Northern Territories we're gonna cover later.
Yeah.
But the other possibility, because there's 2 dragons, is on top of Bahamut. We need to remember how this world is formed, and that each of these points on the map are named after a part of a dragon. Drake's breath, Drake's spine over in Warlode.
Yeah, you've got Drake's head with Sambrique. You've got
Sambrique is Drake's head.
Yes, you've got Drake's fang for the Dalmakian. Is it Dalmakians?
Yeah, which is Hugo's. Kind of the rugged, opportunistic.
Yeah.
Their fortunes shift with the sand. They're also a republic.
Yeah.
With I think there's a representative of 5, a council that is.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Democratically elected. But that don't mean shit to Hugo. He don't give a damn about that. You know, like one of the guys stands up and Hugo just sticks his mighty paw and he's like, sit your ass down. Like Hugo has leveraged himself very much into power, which is curious even on that front, because one thing that confused me was, do these summons come into existence via RNG? If one summon dies, someone will get it unless it's... But I'm really getting an Attack on Titan thing, where if a particular royal, like one of the main titans, if they actually consume a person's power, it's past lineage, so they can choose who gets the next one. But if a choice isn't made, it's randomized. Someone in the world. But what's kind of flipping me on that is Hugo wasn't just someone in the world. He was still part of the Dalmek Empire. He was just a lowly foot soldier. But obviously he was just rugged and he was tough.
Yeah. And
he wasn't royal. And that's why I'm kind of more leaning on these summons are carrying their characters and their personalities and they're kind of choosing. Because, you know, Titan classically hasn't been that self-righteous, divine ruler. He hasn't really had those aspects to him. No, he quite literally will come out from the mud.
Yeah.
He's connected to the ground, you know. So picking a commoner, a lowborn, because he doesn't value status, he values hardiness. And that really fits with Titan's personality. Whereas kind of Phoenix and Bahamut...
they're more, I suppose, I wouldn't say noble summons, but they're definitely more...
I'd say sure, absolutely. Yeah,
Phoenix especially, but like Bahamut being the king of summons, that like he's going to want to be picking somebody that's at the top.
At the top, absolutely.
Like,
and so that these summons can actually have an influence, they can exert cause. So I don't know if it's like basically humans' will, tribalism, the business, and the vying for power and resources. That is the main conflict here in Villistia.
Yeah.
If that's what's causing these summons to dispute, like, or is it the will of the summons, basically? You know, when I heard that detail about Hugo, is that it's RNG, and that it was very curious that there's a lot of contention around how Phoenix. Originally, it was supposed to be Clive who had it, but then Joshua got it, and why is that? And is that also something to do with Clive being the child of fate?
Yeah.
Which I think is big hanging apple of something. Honestly, guys, we're going to go down every twist and turn. Where Clive is born from? Are his parents real? Is everything a dream?
You're going down that
does he have an evil twin? It sounds stupid, but I mean, this is the Evilist team. They did this sort of stuff in 12. I thought for a minute that they were the only ones who were passing it through a monarchy,
but they're not.
Which to me, that immediately screams sort of corruption, keeping power for the self, undemocratic.
And I wouldn't really see Phoenix as a corrupt icon either.
Exactly, which is...
It's always about rebirth and things like that, and it's not a evil.
It doesn't seem that
Yeah.
way on the surface value, but this is where I think Yoshi P is very clever. We saw the Warrior of Light the Warrior of Darkness in the Shadowbringer, and flipping the whole notion of light and dark, good and bad, flipping on its head. So that's why immediately Barnabas did nothing wrong. Barnabas is the hero. Barnabas is a woe from the 14th shard.
That's what we came.
Maybe we'll cover that. But yeah, I mean, even on that point, him being Odin, a manifestation of darkness, and then you've got Barnabas and Bahamut, who is light. Yeah. And what Yoshi P and 14 has always done good at is recognizing that elements need to balance. Yeah. That they polarize around each other, and they're kind of connected. And it's very curious to me that, going back to the map, so we've got Sambrique at some point trying to become the superpower ball of Storm, which is the eastern section. No, western section.
It is
the western section of the map. And it seems like they get to that stage. The only thing that divides the two is the crystalline dominion. It's this, but you see where it is. It's quite clear why that is such an important spot. It has the largest crystal in all of Philistia, which has been a tremendous amount of power. And that there's been wars going on for this section for so long. The nations had to be like, yo, we need to quit fighting over this. This is a neutral zone. And it's not just a neutral zone, it's kind of like the United Nations. There's an elected representative from each nation. Yeah. Except for maybe the Iron Kingdom, because it's curious, if you look on the Crystalline Dominions...
There's only four. Yeah, there's only four of them.
Show Rosaria, Willowed, Sambrique, Dalmet. Yeah. They don't show the Iron Kingdom, which could be part of... No, again, Iron Kingdom being the only nation who oppose dominance. They see ether as a poison. So in the English, we had their souls were sullied with the stain of ether, I merely cleansed their corruption. In Japanese, it's souls poisoned by ether must be cleansed. This is purification, salvation of the soul. Again, it's very easy when some cult-looking mofo is standing in front of a red, like, purpley crystal yelling it. You're like, yeah, okay, he's the nutter. But is he? Is he? Is there something fundamentally wrong with the way humans are using ether? And is the crystalline dominion, are they the ones who are very pro something? Yeah. Because they've created this area where no dominant has control. It seems like it's a hot spot where all of the other nations can come together. I don't know. I just see this as an area that converges as very pro-summon.
Oh, for sure.
And in that place, whether they know things, whether they're behind trying to get the host together, host being the 8 summons, of which we are missing one. But we'll come back to that as well. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking, the Cult Boys, they might not be entirely wrong.
No, there's always two sides to everything, isn't there? And
exactly.
There's going to be different morals going on and different beliefs. And
so basically that area has just become completely neutral. Yeah, people can go there, and they can go there also to rejuvenate themselves with the crystal. This is another really cool part of this story. Is they've made it clear that humans can't survive without kind of basking in the crystal's power, of which they call the mother crystals. Now that's very classic for Final Fantasy. But I do think that when we've got all of this sort of goddess imagery popping around, and they've got mother crystals, and the mother's light is fading, there is some overarching sort of goddess, and that there's a proximity going on. That basically since the 1500 year point when man fought God, there's a really, really big difference in the localization. Ours was, it's been 1500 years since the fall of our forebearers. Translation, 1500 years have passed since men fought the gods. Oh, I just noticed it's plural. Gods.
Yes.
Maybe more than one.
But it's very different, isn't it? The way they sort of, between the two trailers, how it makes the English version sound like the humans have fallen. Yeah. Or forebears have fallen, but then there's not really a definitive outcome on the Japanese version. Yeah. It's kind of, they fought the gods, but don't give you...
It's just left hanging in the air. And basically, ever since that day, the crystals have been slowly diminishing. And I'm seeing it as a proximity thing. Again, the Japanese kind of makes this a lot clearer, is that the whole world of Valistia has moved into an age of twilight. But the people have to travel to these nations to seek the blessing of the mother crystals. And without the crystals, divine protection, man cannot go on living. They are the only ones that spread the blessings. Yeah, that's the Japanese. English and the crystals work their magic through us. And this is the really juicy detail that kind of clicked it in my mind, that it's a sort of a proximity thing. Besides just Sambrique actually building their whole main castle right next to the crystal.
Yeah.
What it seems like is as the crystals diminishing, it's the outer territories that start becoming more and more depleted. And this, as we saw in 15 with King Regis, so as the outskirts and everyone needs to start moving in, and then that needs to start getting defended. And what happens when the size of the nation is too large? They need to start going for other spots of power. Because what we saw is what's happening over in the east. This is where we find out Barnabas, it's Odin, single-handedly took out an area that we see in the trailer Clive and the gang. But it seems like after the battle of Shiva being kidnapped, Jill by the Iron Kingdom, going up against the Dalmex, of which in this battle we saw early on, they did a surprising tactic. The Dalmex brought out Titan way early in the battle. Shiva isn't associated with the Iron Kingdom. She's from the Northern Territory.
She is, yes.
And so it was very confusing to see why is she with the Iron Kingdom, but as it was described in her dialogue, is she's basically being kidnapped and they are using her as a weapon. Yeah, English is, and so I became their puppet. Japanese is, I've been forced to live as their weapon. So Jill's being thrown in as cannon fodder. I think Hugo also says something like that, with these dominants, with these icons, and we should be treated with respect.
Yeah.
But we're not.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, it's the cool aspect that some are revered and some are put literally in control of the nation.
Yeah. I wonder how they're pushing her to do that as well. Is it a thing that they can bring on some sort of way to get her to chancel, or are they threatening her?
I think they might have been, because I did pick out one detail is, the scene where Jill gets booted.
Yeah.
And somebody said something in a foreign accent. Somebody actually translated that. Here it was. So she gets kicked. And it says, "Prime or the girl dies."
So they got somebody else. They captured more innocents than maybe there.
Well, I think there's a little girl that's going along with. So I don't know if Jill's looking after someone, and they're saying prime. And I think prime is kind of a slang term, because icon is primal, and sort of prime out, or we kill this girl. This is way big old time jump from young Clive. Now, obviously Jill goes from being young Jill to older Jill. We see at this point what looks like Clive, who's outcast, he's branded by Ifrit. They take over Rosaria. We see in the wilderness with these guys, capture the dominant and only the dominant.
Yes.
And they even describe themselves, this group that Clive's been. They're basically worthless. Worthless mercenaries. So I get a real sense that whoever takes over is Dark Ifrit, which I think is the cloaked guy. Seems like it's the cloaked guy. He becomes in charge of Rosaria, brands Clive, brands the others, send them out to capture the dominant. They manage to get a hold, shown by this shot here. This was a great grab. We actually see Jill on the back of this new party that Clive suddenly is with, which
we worked out was actually what seems to be Rama's dominant.
The big guy, and then you've got the Rama dominant. Which is classic Rama showing up in early in the story. Again, really fits with the story. Even when we've been looking at the map, where Rama might come from, what nation. He doesn't seem like he might be affiliated. His crystal might be out in the wilderness, kind of when we found 15 Ramas. He's kind of that wise old sage who stays out of civilization and shows up when he needs to play his part. And
there are a couple of points on the map, aren't there? We sort of saw yesterday with some smaller looking crystals, but we're not really sure whether they would.
And we don't even know if that's the case. There is sort of one summon, one crystal.
Yeah.
But we have kind of identified where we think those might be. A really big detail, in case you guys hadn't caught it or heard it yet, but the Japanese translation said it directly, is that petrification takes over the body. The fate that awaits is petrification. You'll go ahead even if it means death. So yeah, the summons turn to stone, which we saw old Rama on his deathbed.
Yeah.
And when I say old Rama, I'm trying not to use what people know saying is his name, because I heard it in the stream, and I just want to make this very clear. None of the details that we're flowing out here, and I'm going to stay completely blind to it because it ruins it for me, and I tweeted out about it.
Yeah.
Apparently there is a rumor going around. Apparently somebody worked on 16, their team got fired, and they said, sucks for you, Square Enix, I'm going to reveal the whole story. Apparently these new trailers add kind of weight that these might be real. And that's the only way that I know, well, not that I know, but we heard people saying what Rama's real name is.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to repeat it here because I just want to say, I know maybe like someone like his name isn't a big deal, but what doesn't seem like a big deal on one law point, you're doing another.
Yeah.
If you have opened yourself up to leaks for the game, that's fine for you. I mean, I think you've absolutely suckered yourself, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't see the point in reading it.
I don't see the point of it, but have the decency not to share it out. Please, for the love of God, have the decency. And maybe, I can imagine it gets hard, like because that's the thing, once you've read a leak, it's in your brain.
Yeah.
And it becomes a part of your understanding the law, and sometimes you forget where you even heard that piece, and you throw it out. And this was one detail where, just basically don't do it. And I hate it, because it would ruin the experience for me. And I said on Twitter, the theory juice, it's the love of it.
Yeah.
It's getting tidbits, extrapolating, making up an absolute bunch of bullshit, blowing it out, pretending that it's real, and then being proved wrong time and time again, 100 times wrong.
Leaks put us out the job, people.
Yeah. We were gonna have that dollar bill. Yeah, leaks. Leaks ruin tinfoil hat dreams.
They do.
Anyway, so Rama jumps into the story. It seems like they get Jill back. I will just show this one quick, clever. Who even thought to do this? On Rama's deathbed, when he's turned to stone, there was a little fade to black.
There was.
And somebody had the insight, I don't know how, to blow up the saturation.
Yeah.
Boom! Jill and Clive are together.
Yeah.
They got caught on the little transition.
It's like a split moment, isn't it?
There's a split moment, which is also kind of backed up that this probably is older Jill. I mean, I think everyone really vibes it, right? I don't know, it could be a misdirect. She's not Shiva, but I think we all vibe she is. But it's also kind of doubly backed up by the Dogo.
Yeah.
The Dogo, the cute little dog, looked like Angelo, fighter crossbow, po. That looks like older Dogo.
It does.
So like, if Jill will,
I didn't actually notice the dog when I first watched the trailer.
Yeah.
Once you pointed it out, and then we were like, oh yeah, they got the pup as well, which was
which where the pup went while Clive was in exile, how he got out of Rosaria. I do want to throw this out to you guys. Is this a brother? Because there was this other guy. He's shown up a lot. Yeah, the blonde guy.
And he's actually sitting at I believe he's sitting at Rama's. If it is Rama's,
he's at Rama's deathbed
as
well.
Bowing down, like.
And I do believe that when Joshua was phoenixing out, and he goes, Joshua, wake up! I think the Japanese goes, brother, please wake up.
Right. Okay.
So I think there's another brother in the mix here. Well, could be wrong, but yeah, I think he's another.
Strange how they actually know, because Joshua's got blonde hair as well, hasn't he? I was going to say because
Clive. That's the thing. Like Joshua and this guy, if they are brothers, Clive, I don't know. I feel like his mother comes from somewhere.
You're getting some Jon Snow vibes from him.
I am. I'm getting a little bastard boy vibes with Clive. Something.
It'd be fitting with the dog as well, following around.
Yeah, something. God, it is. This is Game of Thrones. This is Game of Thrones. Mook Evilise, Mook 14, and I am in for it.
What a great mixture!
I really am.
Concoction.
So they group together, and we'll cover where they're going to go next, which is they clearly go to the east, Western Kingdom.
East. East. On the east, yeah.
Damn it. East.
You're looking at mine.
Yeah, your laptop's inverted, so it's confusing me. So they go to the east. Which, yes, so Sambrique is trying to take all over Storm. And I think the Eastern Continent is being dubbed as Ash.
Yes, I think you are. I think you're correct.
Yeah.
I actually noticed on the map as well, there's darker areas of the more desolate zones. So
I think that's where the Blight is
so
much stronger.
The Eastern Continent Ash is literally covered in this dark. The actual map is covered in this dark, apart from the area around the Kingdom of Willowed, so like the actual crystal.
Well, that's why they said that this nation Willowed it's indomitable in its isolation, meaning because there's such a stretch of Blight in which another line is you'd have to be a fool to live in this place. Magic's no good here. Not even grass grows in this soil. No trees, no birds. You can't get an army across there, really. Not without. It's like General Winter, but with Ash.
And I want terrors, because you've got orcs and beastmen there and things like that. What other terrors?
Yeah, and we kind of see like how tough it is for Clive and the gang to be travelling across there. But it's curious that after they've got Jill, and off the behest of Rama, clearly it's his advice, they're heading over. And I've got a feeling, and you pointed out there's kind of what looks like a spire, like a dark spire. I think we see it in the trailer. And I don't know if this is... I'm getting a mix of two things, that this is either another crystal, if indeed each summon is a crystal, because this could be Barnabas's one. Right in the middle of the Blight, totally away from the Kingdom of Willowed, which makes sense because they described that Barnabas just came with Odin's power, single-handedly took down a whole continent. He now has the biggest superpower. But it kind of described that he just came from nowhere. He was landless and nationless. Which again really fits with the vibe of Odin, which is kind of like this sword of retribution. Or like balance, equilibrium. He is neither good nor bad. He kind of just is that force of reckoning. And he also looks this much like, whoa, man. I don't know, people be thinking it.
I have seen a few comparisons of Woll from Shadowbringers and the Warrior of Darkness, in the Dark Knight sort of form, and the stylizations of the hair and Barnabas compared to him looks very similar.
Yeah, and what I'm thinking is he's come from this section, which, if it isn't a crystal, could it also be a piece of ancient civilization tech? Because that's one detail that they sort of, Yoshi P laid out, is that there's going to be structures in the game and architecture that's going to be reminiscent of a time long gone. And it's so classic for Final Fantasy to present the progression of mankind technologically, not as this linear path, one that is full of rises and falls and back pedals and then progression. Because I get a suspicion that he's from there, and that the crystal, the big one that's up in Drake's spine in Willowed, that this could be the one that Garuda is from. Or at least, if it's not where they're from, of course, these icons, they have a tremendous amount of ether. They need to saturate. Every human needs to saturate, how much do the summons need to saturate? And if this is where Garuda's getting hers from, and this will tie into the mysteries of Levi in the Northern Continent. I get it because she is a Willowed intelligencer.
She is, yes.
So she's just like a Willowed star.
I might just add on the crystal at the top actually as well. I was kind of going more towards Odin's for that one. I'm not saying it will be, because of the colour of it. You can't see it on this map because they've cut it in yellow. But I also noticed the top of it almost looks like a tree. And I was thinking Yggdrasil.
Where Odin hung himself on the life tree.
Might be wrong, but it's...
No, I think it could be, because that's the other...
It's a very weird shape looking crystal compared to the others. The others are a lot more pointed, apart from Titan's, which is more like a volcano shape. But it's very sort of trunk looking, with like a tree trunk, and it's got the top. And that's what I was thinking, maybe.
See, because the other idea is counterparts at each summon, not maybe just their dark one, but even counterpart. And if we do have 8 summons and you times those by 2, you're arriving at 16. Simply because obviously Drake's Breath splits into Ifrit and
Phoenix.
The Northern Continent, so say the north with cold, frigid temperatures. So, and that's where Jill comes from. So Shiva and Levi coming from that. Then you could have people are saying Gollum, that massive exclamation mark, exclamation
Yeah,
mark
there was a
thing.
weird boss that you can see.
Where like if it does a Hellfire, that goes way over the 999 cap.
Yeah.
And people are saying, could that be Gollum or some other Earth Titan? And the other idea is the possibility that something is even coming from the Iron Kingdom's crystal, which is also Rosaria's crystal. This is the curious detail. It's in the trailer when the Archduke says we need to at least secure Drake's breath. I was thinking again that proximity thing is happening. It's the English says that, and as the fringes fade, the people flock to the mother crystals. The Japanese said our country can only persist on the periphery of the mother crystal. They have to get closer to it. And the one that Rosaria draws from is not within Rosaria. They draw from the Iron Kingdom, which is why it's kind of like that flamey one.
Yeah.
And in the Japanese, he says, in the English, we need to at least secure Drake's breath. In the Japanese, he said, we need to take it back again. Yeah, this time we'll take back the Drake's breath, implying that they've had it before. And the only reason why that detail's kind of interesting is the Iron Kingdom have been killing their dominant. They've never been allowing their icon to manifest. Again, it's like, well, what's the one that they're suppressing?
Yeah, we don't know. It could be Ifrit.
Well, that's the idea that people have said, is that they've been man who is a mix between his inner fire of sort of desire and his, there's an element of man where they are fire. We are fire.
Yeah.
We have passions and we're creatures of want, desire, and urge. And that's sort of the darker side of a more primordial base. Whereas on the flip side, the desire to conquer death, the life force within us, that is the nobility within us, the compassionate side to heal rather than destroy, that humanity is a mix of both, and that what's happened here is that one fire icon split into two. Split in two by accident, because one's got a secret twin. No, that doesn't tie. Or split through some other nefarious means, whether that was humanity wanting to try to conquer death. Because again, there was that whole detail, 1500 years before they fought the gods. What was it for? What was it for? Were they trying to in some way defeat the cycle of destruction and rebirth? Did they want to become gods themselves? Why is Ifrit and Phoenix, which are such core base elements, why have they been split?
Yeah.
And what has that split fundamentally been doing? And is that why they're not in the cosmogony artwork? Were they kicked? Because the host consists of Garuda, Shiva, Levi, Titan, Odin, Bahamut, Rama. In this host, and this host is a prophecy we'll cover in the next vid. It seems like it's going to be very, very integral to the story. Phoenix and Ifrit are not a part of it.
No.
Well, we might as well cover it now because it's the juiciest of juices. Right at the top, this higher seraph-looking being.
Yeah.
Massive shout out to Schrodinger's, because for a minute I thought it could be, and I suppose it's similar veins. Clive is here and he's able to unite icons within himself, which is also Barnabas's mission. Because why I think he actually gets Odin early. We were looking at the combat HUDs. He looks like he gets Odin surprisingly early.
Yeah.
Even before Benedicta, it seems. But that's Barnabas's mission. He says in, I think it's the first trailer, I will unite all the dominants to bring an end to this curse, or whatever it was. To basically bring about a second order, which is very much in the prophecy.
Yeah.
Which we'll discuss in the next video.
And he could feel like he's that person, but maybe he's not.
Maybe he's not.
Maybe Clive is that person, and
and
we'll see what happens with him.
And that gets Odin on board very early days. But it doesn't sit, because that's the other thing. When I say get on board, we still don't know whether. I don't even know if at this point Clive has to win them over ideologically. I don't think he does. I could maybe get it with Hugo, I could maybe get with Benedict because she seems extremely loyal to Barnabas.
Yeah.
Obviously, Jill's going to be at his back as Shiva, no matter what. But Barnabas, I can't see that, and it just gives me a vibe that Clive's able to take the power.
Yeah.
Provided he kicks their ass.
We also don't know how much power he's going to get from each one, though, because we've only seen player using on Shiva and Phoenix, haven't we, in their full forms?
We haven't used Shiva. Sorry,
not Shiva. I mean Ifrit.
Yeah.
Ifrit and Phoenix.
Well, we did. We saw that we, as the player, have controlled Phoenix in the game and Ifrit. But the Phoenix one looks like it was when it was against the Icon of Fire, which was Dark Ifrit.
Yeah.
And it looks like I get a sense that wasn't Clive. That we actually get to control Phoenix without Joshua. And it looks like you're winning because the health bar gets really low. And Ifrit just hellfires and just wrecks Phoenix completely. So yeah, I think maybe we've only transformed into Ifrit in the trailer, which does make sense because besides, of course, Clive having the Ifrit arm, of which we saw in the showdown with Garuda. Ifrit loses his arm.
Completely off.
And the fact that then later on, Clive he's stuck with the Ifrit claw. Seems like he's having to use his energies just to keep.
Which I kind of raised a point that was very similar, seeing that this is being done by the DMC combat team. Nero in DMC 5 he's lost his arm. As the game progresses, he gets the power and he actually is able to grow it back in that similar.
What, proper armor or demon?
It's demonic looking.
Right.
So, have they taken some inspiration from that or not?
Feels like it. Feels like it could be, because that's it. That's the thing. Like, people questioning when the icons get damaged, does it damage the dominant? And the only thing that makes me think that may not be the case is we do see a form of Garuda where she's got this slash across her face, and I was looking in the trailer to see if Benedicta's pretty face had been marred in any way. But maybe it's different degrees of damage, or
maybe a slash is okay, but
and the whole arm coming off. Yeah. But it does seem like, and again, it's where this fits in so much with the personalities. It looks like we're going to be going back on another Ifrit Shiva shipping arc. Because they're going to ship Clive and Jill, right? Team Clill! Lift! This couple, they are lift. They give me lift. And it was funny because, I was thinking about 15, but Yoshi himself, this is quite an old article now, but he said, and speaking of summons, we see the classics pop up. How do you decide which vocation to include in the game? Which was a strange question. Vocation, what, like a career, like a path?
Yeah, but then the more we looked into it a bit more, and they maybe thought religion, like
perhaps religion. Basically, Yoshi said that he wanted to include vocations into this game that people had heard of before and would be happy to experience on such a large scale. Confusing, but the main part was, as for Ifrit, this one is a bit special. As you know, in most Final Fantasy games, Ifrit is usually one of the first callings that the hero encounters, which means that he is also one of the first to be defeated by the hero. I'm a little sorry for him. So I figured this time I would give him an opportunity to shine by making him really strong and the focus of our story. Woo! Woo! And some people came out and they're like, well, what are you chatting about? Like, he was the main antagonist in 15. Which I say, but he was the abused one. If it was the abused one, he was the only one of the summons that you couldn't summon throughout the game.
No.
You didn't see his character. He was corrupted by Arden. So I would say of all the summons, Ifrit is by far the hardest done by. And it's just, that's just like peak Yoshi P. That's such a good sign to me, and it's why this game is looking so good, and the characterizations are fitting the summons to a T. Garuda, which the opposite of lightning on the elemental chart. You've got Benedicta, who's kind of in the shadows, the rogue, sort of the lone wolf.
Yeah.
And she's kind of unhinged. She's crazy. You seen some of these Garuda shots?
Crazy.
And she looks wild.
People are simping for her already.
Oh man, I simp for Benedictines everywhere. And then, like on the opposite of that, you've got Rama. The kind of controlled, contained.
Which I noticed actually on the point in the trailer when they're transforming.
Yeah.
he was the only one that had blue eyes while he was
in the middle of transformation. Yeah.
All the others had red, orange eyes. From what we saw from Hugo, Benedicta, and Joshua.
Yeah, during the transformation, his eyes stayed blue, so he's most in control of himself, and that stays blue. Now the others, they go red, and then they sort of get into their form, and then they kind of stabilize, and they sort of go blue. Until, of course, we see some red versions, which Bahamut and Titan. We don't know what brings about those dark versions, but the interesting thing is they all have blue, except for Benedicta. Hers remain this reddish colour, which kind of gives me this vibe, again, that she's kind of fallen into step with the chaos of her summon more than the others. She's kind of really affiliated with the insanity of it,
which fits the character very well, doesn't it?
Oh, I just
Garuda's
fits in with the step on me mummy energy. Step on me mummy, step on me mummy. Love it. And yeah, the fact that we're seeing that and it's so clear, and like even just Yoshi sort of like empathizing on an emotional level with the summons, shows why this is the man for the job and why he is going to deliver the best we have seen with the summons. Yeah. For sure. But yeah, the whole thing with the host and all those summons, rounding this video out, because this is just floodgates, man. Yeah, honestly, let us know in the comments section below. Smash up that like a Rulio. If you're happy for me to pour an excessive, nauseating amount of 16 content, choo, the train's back in the station. We're going.
All along for the ride.
I'm so excited, yo. Yeah, the final kind of main detail is this Seraph thing. Schrodinger's really pointed out well, because I thought it might be a merge of all of them, because there were 6 wings on this Seraph, which Bahamut, Garuda, Phoenix, but there were other parts that they didn't really fit.
No.
The idea that Phoenix and Ifrit are missing from the host pantheon, that this is a merge of them. And I like it, because, Schrodinger's, check out the little silhouette he drew.
I almost drew one last night.
He was looking at it, and
I was like, I need
you
to
got triggered so that you didn't get
triggered.
that.
I was like, I need to see the floodgates off and not think anything's too out there.
Yeah, he was too timid. He was kind of like, I don't know, I'm overthinking. I'm like, dude, let your goose loose, man. Let it loose. Because honestly, there's been times where I let my goose loose on things, and the directors, they go even crazier than you think.
Yeah.
You honestly, you can't think too small with a Final Fantasy.
But it's my first time, so
yeah.
I'll get better.
Warm in the cockles. But yeah, it's clearly to me now looking at, especially with the horns, that this is a merge. And if Clive's going to become this, and what, when those 2 aspects that maybe mankind have kept extracted and separate.
For a power sort of view, keeping Ifrit at bay, because being the god of like the sort of summon of destruction, and only having rebirth. If somebody wants power, Phoenix would be a perfect one to keep around if it's for rebirth.
Yeah, and it's literally listed in one of the books that somebody dissected that in this universe, Phoenix has been the most coveted. The most coveted.
Yeah.
And it's why I believe that Sambrique launches this attack early on, 860. I believe that there's something seriously wrong with Sambrique and Bahamut. And there's something amiss there. And that's why Barnabas has to raise the only superpower capable of competing with it. And we do see it later. We see Dio, Barnabas fighting. I think there's something off there. I think the Cult Boys are onto something. Crystalline Dominion's going to look like the United Nations, just like this impartial. But you strip back the layers, there's going to be some.
I think that's where that voice is coming from the second trailer that says "Rise, Ifrit." I think
Rise, Ifrit,
because it kind
of the fate.
Yeah, I don't know. He's either from the Iron Kingdoms or he's even for the Crystalline Dominion. I think.
Yeah, I think so.
It's some sort of shady character that.
Yeah, and the people have pointed it out, and this is where we talk about this goddess figure and what connection it might have. But yeah, in this form, which is kind of Sephiroth, Seraphim, I'll cover how this ties into the Abrahamic Joshua story, which is that there's 4 promises made to Joshua, and the basic tendency is someone who will unite the land and give those. It's going to be like the ultimate harbinger, the ultimate one who can...
It also fits the sort of biblical depiction of angels as well from the Old Testament.
Big time.
They have multiple wings and they're sort of covered in eyes. They're not these sort of angelic beings that you sort of see in the New Testament stuff.
Yeah.
So,
And it could also be, because this is the evilist team, it could also maybe be Ultima. We'll talk about Ultima more, but it was a god that was kind of man-created, which it would be with this, and was kind of cast down, was betrayed. Ultima was a really, really big deal in Evil East. Ramza had to seal her. Could be something like that. Anima could be. Just remembered I missed is the little drake beneath. I was talking about the two drakes.
Yeah.
Finish that.
No.
One of those drakes could be their icon, Bahamut, of which Dio is. But maybe this isn't Bahamut. What if it's either Midgard Soma Brood? Because in 14 they have really big, and Heaven's Ward, really big, powerful dragons.
Yeah.
Some of them can be massive, and they're filled with ether. And if something's died on this continent, is that what happened when man fought the gods? Was one of these gods a drake? And when they brought it down in the war, that's what saturated the land. That's what created these meridian point crystals. Is that the betrayal that happened? Could one of those drakes also be Shinryu? You actually saw in Dissidia NT, didn't you? You played Dissidia NT. You remember the big golden dragon at the end?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, Shinryu is classic.
Right.
And I just got a feeling that, if there's this goddess that brought a drake being, that drake, because then you had kind of all the artwork of the people below, and it kind of looked like there was mist around it. And I don't know if that's like when ether first came to the land and humans had to start absorbing in it. Yeah. So that happened all 1500 years before. What happened at Zero? We'll cover why the nations attack in the formats that they do.
Yeah.
Many motives. Got at least about 5 theories, but you know what? I've got more than that. Just depends whether I turn them into... So I was imagining like a 10-minute. Hello, welcome to the Tinfoil Hat Den. Here's a really concise, juicy piece of 10-minute lore. Blap. It's impossible.
It is impossible.
Impossible. But yeah, hopefully this gets floodgates open, and ffpeasantmail.com or over my Twitter is probably easiest. If there's anything that you've noticed in the trailers, splitting or flirting, even if it's weird, it's just a quirky headcanon that you've got, or something you feel pretty compelled on,
don't hold back.
Don't hold back. Blast it over there so that we can steal your ideas and recycle them and pretend them they are ours. Too self-aware. I'm saying the quiet bits out loud. There we go. Okay, tinfoil hats off.
Yeah.
Release the steam from the ears. Very exciting stuff.
Very exciting. Yeah.
So smash up that subscribe if you want to come on a little Tinny's journey, and we'll see you guys
next one.
Yeah.
Crazy ideas.
With every single.
I'll look more decrepit.
Just slowly degrading.
I'll just be a skeleton in the corner.
With just me yelling theories at it. Just moving your head. Like, agree with me, Skelly Ginge. Peace out, guys.